Ah, it's raining. Ooh, and I'm still tired, obviously. I feel like I look like a little kid, but at this point it is what it is.
Oh my goodness, my eye is so itchy. What's up, friends, family, and future NDs? It's me, Alicia, and I want to welcome you to another episode of AD's RX for MD. So today we are talking about your why. Expressing clearly and definitively why you want to be a doctor. So if you want to know what steps I took to help sort of craft my answer, then keep on watching.
I'm not worried that I need to help you. Let's speak more, let's preach more proof.
Today's video is one that I've actually had in the works for several weeks, but we're gonna get into it today. So first, let's just talk about the fact that as simple as it seems, answering why you want to be a doctor is not really that simple. It is, but it isn't. And that's because a lot of people just don't understand how to approach the question. A lot of times you haven't necessarily thought of a clear, definitive reason why. I know I didn't. It wasn't that I didn't have good reasons, it's just I had never worked on clearly articulating exactly what my passions were, my desires, my interests, and how that translated into being a doctor. So for this reason, it can be very difficult to effectively answer this question for yourself and thus admissions committees. So let's first talk about some of the common base reasons that people have. Obviously, wanting to help people, wanting to impact the world, wanting to give back to the community, and all of these are great foundations, but they are just the foundation, and you have to build on that answer, right? That's really the main problem, is that they are pretty basic reasons, and they don't give a lot of specifics. You gotta show that you are truly motivated by something deeply meaningful to you. So making it a little bit more personal is always going to be a good idea. So what's the solution to these problems that we just posed? For me, the solution was, number one, recalling a specific event or events where it was either myself involved with interacting with a doctor or a medical professional, or a close friend or a family member that you were able to actually sit there and observe and be kind of intimately involved in. Then I started looking at, what was it about this exchange or encounter that struck me or stuck with me? Why was I so inspired by it specifically? Not just, wow, they're so smart, but beyond that, what was it that drew me in? And then talk about how that relates to my interests and my desires, and how I think that really means that ultimately my purpose is to be a doctor. So that's super general and broad language. So what are the actual steps that I used to create my answer to this question? And I'm actually going to give you my full answer at the end of this video as well, so make sure you stay tuned. That is an answer that in my interviews, I literally got verbal feedback immediately that my interviewers were very impressed with the answer. They could tell that I had thought it out, and it was just a solid reason in their eyes. Now, of course, you don't just want to do this for someone else's approval, but going through this process is going to solidify this for yourself as well, so you can know for a fact that this is definitely what you want to do. So what are the steps? First, you want to identify a defining moment of inspiration. The big moment that really was sort of a wake-up call for me was when my maternal grandmother was diagnosed with cancer. So that's kind of like my moment of inspiration. The next thing that I did was identify my personal connection or involvement. So I was pretty involved in that situation because I actually took my grandmother to some of her doctor's appointments, and I sat with her with some of the doctors, and I even spent several weeks that summer at her home helping her to just kind of take care of the house and cook and clean and whatever else needed to be done. So then I chose to identify sort of my surface feelings about the interactions that we had with the doctors, as well as looking at, how my grandma's everyday life had changed given the diagnosis. And so surface feelings can be something like wanting to help, want to keep people from being scared, wanting to comfort people. And then I identified things that were beneath the surface. These will help show that you've thought deeper than just what everyone is going to see in a situation. Most people are going to see empathy. Most people are going to see good bedside manner. But in order to prove that you're ready to pursue medicine, you need to show that, okay, I've gone beneath the surface of what everybody else is going to look at. So what does this actually look like? Okay, so for example, let's say your surface emotion or feeling is you want to keep people from being scared. The way that I went beneath the surface with that was, okay, well, let's look at what are the main things that make people afraid. So I identified sometimes ignorance makes people afraid. They don't really know or understand their health. They don't really know how they can be involved. They don't really know what lifestyle changes they can make. Okay, so what does that mean for being a doctor? Well, that means instead of just being the person who kind of has all this knowledge and just kind of tells them this is what you need to do, maybe bring it a step down and almost teach them a little bit. Of course, you don't need to go into a full med school lecture for a patient, but just being able to break concepts down into language that is understandable for your patient and giving them a better sense of understanding of their condition and what they can do can help dispel some of those fears. So that's just kind of an example of how to go through this process for each one of your reasons. And then I just looked at what the future of medicine could look like, or my future as a doctor could look like if I continue doing this with my patients, and how I can have a broader impact on society at large. So that's pretty much the steps that I went through. Now, let's just look briefly at what my why is. I kind of have this in bullet form right now, but it's something that I was able to kind of string together and make kind of one cohesive thought. So basically, I talked about how, I've had an interest in being a doctor from a young age, but it took a while for the actual passion and motivation to be cultivated because I hadn't really had any personal experiences with medical professionals out of the ordinary. And so it wasn't until my grandmother's cancer diagnosis that I really found the passion and the fire for medicine, right? And so I sat down with several doctors, and finally there was one that really just clicked and connected with my grandma. And the reason why is because other doctors, were all knowledgeable. They did not address the questions that she had about basically her agency in the entire situation. Early on, it kind of just felt like cancer is something that happened to you, and this is how we're going to treat you, and we're going to see how it comes out. Whereas with this other doctor, it was more educating her, helping her to be more enthusiastic about her health and continue in health habits that she had before that were going to optimize her chances for a favorable outcome. The doctor empowered her. And so seeing how she as a patient was empowered by this doctor, not to just see the doctor as the hero, but to see the role that she could play, was just really insightful for me. And I realized, wow, I want to do that. I want to devote my life to inspiring patients, not to see me as their hero, but to see the role that they can play in impacting their long-term health outcomes and overall longevity. At that point, my motivation changed from, well, what could I see myself doing for the rest of my life, to how can I impact my patients and inspire them for the rest of their lives? And that's pretty much why I decided I wanted to be a doctor. So all of these answers are genuine. There's nothing wrong with having something prepared, something written out. For me, I just used it to more guide my thoughts, so I wasn't just talking all over the place. So that just gives you a little bit of insight into what my why was and how it incorporates the steps that I use. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified every single time I post. And I will see you guys in the next video.
If God got